Everybody set? All right, Coach, we'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks for coming out. Just a good win. I thought Eastern Michigan was playing really good football the past couple of weeks, and just another outstanding effort by our defense, holding that team to 3 points, and holding that running back Bronson Hill down. I think he's a really good player, and we generated turnovers. We scored a defensive touchdown. Offensively, it wasn't pretty, but we did what we needed to do. We outscored the other team. We got a big play in the double pass. We had a nice run by Givens, and then in the second half, we struggled early, but then again we went very conservative. With the way our defense is playing right now, once we got up, once it was 21-3 and then 24-3, we were going to run the football and not turn it over, and try to make first downs and take off the clock. And certainly that drive at the end of the game that I think we took off 6 minutes was a great effort by our offensive line and our backs and our tight ends, and just making first downs and finishing the game with the football. So that's always a goal of ours. Once it gets under 5 minutes, if we have a lead, we want to finish the game with the football, and that isn't easy to do with the type of defenses you see there. So I thought, again, the numbers weren't great, but I thought our offense did what they needed to do to win this football game.
Defensively, Dave, it looked like the plan was to stop the run and force them to be one-dimensional. Yeah,
I mean, we loaded the box and put the safety right down there, and we put a lot of pressure on our corners to cover. And they made a few plays, but I thought we covered them pretty well, and didn't concede easy throws. And Gabe Martin had that pick, which was a big play, and obviously, if we can cover them for a little bit, our front rushes the passer pretty well, and we had a lot. I don't know how many sacks we had today, but I would guess 3 or 4, and we have a good D line. So,
with those sacks, I mean, are you still are there blitz calls there, or is that just something you see?
I think one of them was a blitz, but a lot of them, I think some of them today were coverage sacks. To me, they weren't quick sacks. To me, the quarterback set up. Usually if the quarterback can get to a second gather, and then you get the sack, that's what I describe as a coverage sack. Then he got to his first read, he got to his second read. By the time he gets to his third read, we're on him. And when that's happening, you're getting good coverage in the back end.
And you see the defense confidence just keep growing every week. I mean, you're around them all the time. You see not a swagger, but just a confidence.
Yeah, but the thing that the fans don't see, or you guys don't see, is just the attention to detail and the effort that those guys are practicing with. I mean, we present them with a preliminary game plan on Sunday, and then they have Mondays off. And for the past 2 years, our Tuesday practices were just a mess. There was very little retention, and just how coachable those guys are, and knowing the checks, and knowing the game plan, and knowing the offensive formations, and those guys they've grown up, and I said it last year. We had so many young guys that you just hope that they didn't know what they didn't know, and now they know it, and that's why not only do we have good players, but we have guys that are executing the defense at a very high level, and we just got to keep doing it, because obviously the challenges are going to get greater as we move along here. But it's fun to watch. You're watching a defense right now play really good football and execute really well.
By your own words, offense was not pretty. How much of that, in your eyes, was the conservative nature, especially in the second half?
Well, I was probably most disappointed that we didn't score points in the second quarter. That at that point it was it was 7-0, then 14-0, then you get the wind. And that's, I really thought the wind would play a bigger factor in today's game than it did. That was a strong win. So, to me, to escape that first quarter and be up 14-3 against the wind, I really hoped in that second quarter that, okay, bang, we're going to go up and down the field and get the throw game going and make plays, and it was a real bad second quarter. And then, in the third quarter, it was a little sloppy early, and when that happened to Andre, you could just tell, there was I was worried about our team. They were very concerned for him, and they should be. that's a game that, then Chris Jones gets the fumble recovery for a touchdown, and you're up 21-3, and we're gonna pack it in. I mean, the last third of that football game, we were very much in a 4-minute mode, and it may not be the prettiest thing to watch, but I love watching it.
And that comes after that third touchdown, making it 21-3.
Yeah, 21-3. I mean, they were not gonna. I didn't think they were gonna score 3 touchdowns on us unless we turned it over and gave them a short field. And again, it's you're not gonna see us leading the league in offense, but right now we're outscoring the teams we're playing, and that's what we need to do.
Let's talk about that fumble recovery. How does that say about Chris Jones and your defensive line in general?
Oh, I mean, I can, we could do a 20-minute story on Chris. He's, just a phenomenal player. I mean, I really hope people are appreciating what they're getting with him, and as he finishes his career here. But he'll go down, I'd imagine, as one of the best defensive linemen ever play here. And he brings it every day, and he brings it every game. And so, it was great for him to score. So I heard some people pushing him for Heisman. I don't know how many votes he's going to get. But he is certainly a great player for us.
After this win, how much is bowl eligibility in your head, or is it at all?
Not really. I mean, it's we know it's a number, but to me we try to establish that as a minimum goal for our program. We want to win the MAC East, and we want to play in Detroit, and that is the biggest goal. And we're excited heading into November. That goal's alive. And it's the first time in a while it has been.
Do you have a preliminary report on Andre from anything you heard on the field?
I wouldn't want to say anything until I know for sure.
Will you talk a little bit about your running back position? You don't have Samuel for the game. You obviously get a huge game from Pettigrew, big plays from Hopgood, and Gibbons had the first TD run. Will you talk about the play of your running backs?
Yeah, really, you're arguably your best offensive skill players down with Anton. The guy that went into the season is his backup. Jamel Martin's out, although Pettigrew has really been the backup. And and then you lose Gibbons. So at the end, you're essentially playing with your 5th tailback, and he plays really well. So that's one of those positions. I think defensive linemen and tailbacks, you cannot have too many of them. And we're getting very thin at the position. So this break and this half a bye week is coming at a good time. So John, if you had eligibility left, you'd be number 3 right now. To get you a handful of carries.
I'll bring you a helmet.
Okay.
Will you talk though about the play of Pettigrew? Because so far this season he's been a short yardage guy, and today 24 carries, 136 yards. He was much more than a short yardage guy.
I couldn't be happier for John. John was a highly recruited guy at high school, and it was a little harder here. When he first got here, it was harder than he thought, and he wasn't a guy that necessarily put the work in or made the investment early in his career. And then the last 2 years, he really has. And it's great, as a coach, it's great to see a guy that, he wasn't like Chris Jones or Dwayne Woods that just showed up and had instant success. He's a guy that's really worked for everything that he's achieved. So I'm really proud of him. I look back now and I wish we wouldn't have played him as a true freshman. I'd love to have him back for a 5th year. But he's become a very good player for us. And again, you lose Samuel, you lose Martin, and then you just say, okay, JP, it's your game. And he did enough for us to win. And he's a tough kid.
Anything on Kendall Martin? Or Kendall Montgomery, I'm sorry.
Kendall Montgomery was suspended for 1 game for a violation of team rules. And we expect him back in practice this week.
Anything else?
If you would talk a little bit about Hopgood also, it's a guy who's not seen a lot of action this year and makes a huge play on the touchdown pass.
Yeah, we've been practicing that since preseason camp. And I think it was a great call by Coach Ruggiero. I think he sensed we needed a little spark and get something going, and he pulled that out right away. And when he caught it, I almost stopped him because of the wind. It's one of those things that, hey, let it go. And he's got a nice arm, and he's a good athlete, and he threw a perfect ball. And then at the end of the game, he ran the ball well for us too. And he ended up with 61 yards and 7 carries.
With Anton, how close was he to playing today? I mean,
He was very close. Tried to practice Thursday. He practiced for the first half of practice, and he just didn't feel good. And the trainer made a decision yesterday. I said, we're not going to play. I didn't want to. Could he have played? Maybe. I just didn't want to take a chance and have something happen and then lose him long term. So it was, obviously he's a good player. We missed him, but hopefully by not playing him, we'll get him back fresh and rested, and he'll be closer to 100% for Ohio.
okay, that was the follow-up. There's a chance that you would think he would be able to go then?
I'm hoping he's going to practice on Wednesday. I mean, he practiced half of Thursday. And when I tell you Wednesday that I think he'll play, it's because I was told he would practice Thursday. So we're not trying to be deceptive with that. But he came out to Thursday practice and went through the first half of practice and just didn't feel good. And when a guy doesn't practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I never feel about playing those guys. And JP got all the reps, and I felt he deserved to start. And we had Trey, we had Hopgood, and we just said, hey, we'll go with those 3 this game, and then hopefully get Anton back 100% healthy, and that'll help us make a push for Ohio.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks,
Okay,
Coach.
thank you.